Good morning, students. My name is Etwete Dorothea Shiningayamwe. You can call me Miss Etwete. I'm a tutor for Curriculum Theory and Practice A, BEd, CTA12, and BESP, SCT41. It's Bachelor in Education, Honours Degree, Examination-Based Contact classes for 2020. Welcome. This is a presentation mainly for both assignments and examination-based contact lessons. It's quite a very long presentation, but I will not be able to go through all the slides. So welcome to the module of Curriculum Theory and Practice. In this presentation, I will discuss some of the main content that are covered in your study guide. However, the aim is just to help you to prepare for your upcoming examinations and as well as assignments. So I would also want you to note that I'm not going to give attention to the whole content. So at the end of my presentation, I'm going to give you my contacts for queries. So to send me a text or an email or any other means of communication. So prior to your studies, I would want you to familiarize yourself with the learning outcome found at the beginning of the learning unit. Colleagues, it's very important that you look at the learning outcomes, because the learning outcomes help you to, they kind of give you an overview of what is really happening or what is this module all about. It kind of the main theme that would enable you to kind of understand why curriculum theory and practice, why are you doing it, what are the main concepts that emerge into the book or into the study guide, and it's other important aspects. So please pay attention to the learning outcomes. The learning in the study guides, you'd also find out that there are some learning activities and practices. The learning activities, they are kind of like self-learning activities. These self-learning activities, they are also helpful because they are able to kind of it's kind of a rehearse. By rehearsing, I mean you are kind of practicing or kind of also training your mind on how to answer certain questions. So please try also to practice these learning activities without really necessarily looking at the answers or giving answers. So only studying for your study guide, especially for examination, please pay attention to your study guide. I know it's very important that we kind of also ask general knowledge questions, but it's very important that in every aspect, in every answer that you are giving, it's very important that you also reflect, or you also kind of give practical knowledge from the study guide. So why is curriculum theory and practice? Like the name implies, what is curriculum and what are theories? This module is kind of, it will enable you to understand the contribution of some philosophies are like ideologies or belief toward the curriculum development, or toward the evaluation, the design of the curriculum, toward the evaluations, toward how are these philosophies. There are different philosophies that believe into different issues. So these philosophies has designed, or they have established, or they believe the curriculum should serve different purposes. So this module, there are kind of philosophies that will kind of enable you to understand how they view the design of the curriculum. It will also give you an overview of some critical analysis on curriculum designs, like I've already mentioned. Curriculum designs, curriculum evaluation, curriculum establishment, curriculum development. These are kind of the most important issues that this module is going to highlight, is going to give an overview about it, related to curriculum foundations and orientations. It will also kind of analyze, it will also help you to analyze the role of educational philosophy that I have already mentioned. Remember when I have mentioned that there are different types of philosophers, there are different types of ideologies. There are also ideologies, there are differs. We'll find some are in religion, some are in education, some are in science, some are in humanity. So for the purpose of this, for the purpose of this for the purpose of this study guide, or for the purpose of this module, it's more on curriculum, educational philosophies or educational ideologies. The module would also help you to, it will also kind of sensitize you and educate you on the importance of parental involvement in the school. It's another aspect. Why is it very important for parents to get involved in their education? Upon the completion of this module, you should be able to explain the input of philosophy into what the curriculum, what has philosophy added, or what has philosophy contributed? What did philosophies, what are these beliefs and ideologies? What are their contribution toward the curriculum practices? You should able to analyze, or you should be able to kind of reflect. When I'm referring to a reflection, you are kind of able to reflect is kind of to give an overview of what you have learned into practice. You are kind of reflecting, like, now that you have learned, what have you learned, what were your views, and what are your views at this point of time now after you have learned. You should be able to kind of reflect and analyze the curriculum design models, relating them to the curriculum orientation, investigate the designed models, VC, the oriented plans, like what is that is currently designed in comparison to what is oriented. To what is oriented is more like what is going to happen. So without wasting much time, I don't want to go through the learning outcomes one by one, because it's quite, as I've already mentioned, it's quite going to be a very long presentation. So I'm going to jump the learning outcomes. Please go through them. As I've already mentioned, that please, it's very important that you go through these learning outcomes. Like describe the role of educational philosophies. I don't really want to go through them one by one before reading, because I kind of want to give you an overview of some other important aspects in the study guide. So please go through the learning outcomes. Briefly, this unit covers 5 units, which slowly introduce you to the contribution of philosophy. It started with the philosophers. What type of philosophers, what type of beliefs or ideology are these? And then you have module 1 up to unit 5. I also don't want to waste much time on just going through about these units. Please, the aim of having a brief description or a brief discussion about units, it's just kind of to give you an overview as well, as I already mentioned. So because I kind of want to touch on very practical issues, maybe there are some explanation that you need to understand. I'm also going to jump this slide about the units. So I just give an overview of unit, what's happening from unit 1 up to unit 5. So let's quickly jump to the definition of terms. As I have been talking about the philosophies or the beliefs, you have already started asking, what are philosophies or what are beliefs? As I've mentioned, a philosophy or an ideology is a set of conscious and unconscious ideas. When I mean conscious, it's an unconscious. These are like noun and unnoun, like ideas that are made up of goals or expectations and actions. By goals, I mean an ideology is kind of a set of beliefs that is made up of an idea with certain expectations, or with certain plans, or with certain actions. By actions are like tasks, or maybe what is that they would want to do. It's a comprehensive vision. Yeah, it's like when I mean a comprehensive vision, it's more like it has a vision. When you have a vision, it's more like you have a plan of where you would want to be in the next 20 years. Like Namibia has Vision 2030. So in ideology, it's kind of a set of ideas with certain plans on what they would want to accomplish in a certain period of time. So these people now, in terms of curriculum development or in terms of now curriculum theory and practices, these people as philosophers, they kind of have an idea on how they would want to implement the curriculum, or they kind of have an idea on how the curriculum theories and practices should be. Like they are mentioning that it's a set of ideas proposed by the dominant class of a society to all members of this society, receive consciousness or product of socialization. It's like, beliefs are made up of people. It's not made up of any other non-organic matters. It's people. These are philosophers. These are believers. These are like a certain group of people that believe that in terms of curriculum theories and practices, this is how we want our curriculum to be guided on or to be based on. So in many cases in this CTA, you would hear about philosophy of education. As I have mentioned, that there are different type of philosophers. You would find maybe philosophers of education, philosophers in religion, philosophers in science, philosophers in law. These are people that kind of have different beliefs into something. So in terms of the philosophies of education, this is now a group of philosophers, a group of ideologies that have certain beliefs about the certain way of education. So philosophy of education can also be defined as one of the educational philosophy that promote a specific type of a vision of education. Like, as I've mentioned, that Namibia have a Vision 2030. So as the philosophers in education, they also have kind of a certain vision of how education should be. So these philosophers, they examine the definitions of what is education to them. In terms, you would find that some people believe that education is about civilization, but some people believe that education is about supporting ourselves. Some people believe that education is about success, but some people believe that education is just maybe, perhaps, it's about knowledge. It's some people, when they hear about the concept of education, what comes to their mind perhaps is that it's well-off, it's development. But some people perhaps they believe that when they hear the term education, they believe that no, education it's about knowledge. It's about the acquisition of knowledge. It's about awareness creation. So in terms of these philosophers, they also believe different meanings. They also have a certain vision that examine the definitions, the goals, the expectations, and the meaning of education. Now, this is the reason why I'm giving all this ideology definition is because remember this study guide or this module is more about it's about curriculum theory and practices. So it's about curriculum theories. The theories are now the ideologies, and the practices, how do these theorists and believers or ideologies practice or implement kind of their curriculum. Now, curriculum is one of also the main issue into this study guide or into this module. When we define curriculum, what is really curriculum? I would really want you to know that curriculum is more of a plan. It's more of a plan or a procedure. It's a regulation that kind of guides how education is going to be implemented in terms of the teaching methodologies, in teaching of the learning activities. By the teaching, I mean how is the teacher going to deliver the type of information? The learning activities, how are the learners going to learn? The assessment, what type of assessment activities? Are the assessment activities in coherence? Are they talking to the learning activities? Are the assessment activities, are the teaching activities talking to the learning activities. So a curriculum is a plan or a regulation for teaching, learning, and assessment, which also gives directions to how the people are going to plan, how they are going to organize, how they are going to implement, and how they are going to put into practice the learning activities and the teaching activities and the assessment activities for this type of education. So curriculum is based on a curriculum is also made up of syllab. A syllab is like a smaller element into the curriculum. A syllab is you know, under the curriculum. The curriculum is quite a big body. It's kind of like a big knowledge. It's an umbrella kind of body that guides the syllab. A syllab is more like it's a small component of curriculum that also speak about the learning materials and textbook to be used into the various subjects in the areas of learning. Remember, the curriculum includes all the teaching and the learning and the assessment and the organizations, the implementations, and the planning, everything, how it's going to be executed. But a syllab is more like a smaller component that is made up of the learning materials. It's more like, what type of textbook are we going to use? The syllab it's a smaller component of the curriculum. Now, as I've already mentioned, so the moment I would want you to look at these three terms, the ideologies and the curriculum, as the major issues, because we are talking about curriculum theory and practices. Now, in Unit 1, for instance, what is inclusive education and what are the needs of its learners? So in Unit 1, we speak about inclusive education. When the curriculum is being set, they also have what they call inclusive education. Inclusive education, remember, like inclusive, I would want you to look at the practical issues. Inclusive education, I'm not going to go through the definitions that are in the slide, but I would want you to look at inclusive education as a type of education that includes, that accommodates the needs of all learners, whether it's people living with disability, whether it's the normal people that do not have any physical inabilities. It's inclusive education because it accommodates even learners who cannot see, learners who are not able to read, learners who are not able to hear, learners who are not able to walk. Perhaps maybe the classes are upstairs and the learners are not able to walk upstairs. Maybe there are some stairs, there are some lifts that are prepared. You know, as a learner, I mean, as a teacher, it's very important to accommodate the needs of the learners who are unable to do some specific task. So when you are in class, you should be able to look at a learner who is not able to see. What are you going to do about this person? A learner who is not able to walk. What are you going to do about this person? A learner who is not able to perhaps hear. What are you going to do about this person? This is more about inclusive education. Learning and teaching occurs in the problem-centered design model. What is a problem-centered model? A problem-centered model is or how is learning and teaching? How should learning and teaching occurs in the problem-centered design model? When I look at a problem-centered model, the problem-centered model is more like it's kind of a centered design that it's able to solve problems at the outset of a lesson and experience the process of solving, collaborating, negotiating, and sharing. So instead of you as a teacher looking at a learner as a problem, you kind of identify some strategies on how to collaborate, on how to negotiate, on how to share, and come up with technical solutions on becoming on solving. It's kind of a design or a model that is used to kind of address some challenges. Instead of looking at them as challenges, you kind of find solutions and you'll be able to solve them. Like they're saying, learners become producers rather than consumers of the knowledge. So in the problem-centered model, it's more like a learner-centered model. in a problem-centered model, learners are not viewed as empty voters, but they are viewed as knowledgeable persons who are able to do their own issues on their own way, who are able to produce knowledge. Not a teacher coming to the class and say, papa, 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 without, like the way I'm doing now. I'm not doing a problem-centered model because I am speaking to you without necessarily brainstorming your knowledge on how you understand the certain issues aspects. So please look at how is learning and how is teaching occurring into a problem-centered model. So in terms of a teacher, the teacher in a problem-centered model does not the teacher does not see the learners as vessels. In the learning process, the learners are also just not filled with information, but they are also producers of knowledge. They think out of the box by looking at different aspects in a different ways. There are kind of a lot of issues. I don't want to keep on in one topic. And then we come to the curriculum practices. And remember, this subject is based on its curriculum theories and practices. Now, so how are the, remember when you think about different theories, there are different type of theories, very different type of theories. They speak about the conservatism and the liberalism. Now, what is the difference between the conservatism and the liberalism? The liberalism, this is the type of curriculum practice that that kind of advocate for free and fair elections. In terms of the like the word implies, it's a liberal. It's a liberal in a way that it does not authoritate. It does not impose information on the people. It believes in democracy. It believes in freedom. It believes in free trade. It believes on an abolition of private properties. It's a kind of the liberal curriculum practices. It's a type of a curriculum that aims to empower the people to be free, to stand out for their own rights, to be accommodative, to be radical, to be transformative. It doesn't authoritate. It's not forcing the people to do what everybody, maybe the elites or maybe the those who are in power governing to do what they want. But it's kind of want people to be free. It advocates for free education. I mean fair education, like access, equity, and equality. It wants everybody to be part of. It rejects the notion of privilege, state religion, absolute monarchy, and the divine rights of the king. It's challenging that people should be free. People should not be governed by somebody who is power, who is not going to be questioned. But it's kind of a type of, it's liberal. It wants people to be very deliberative about their own needs. And then the conservative now came as a reaction of the liberal ideas. After a group, as I'm speaking about these theories, I would want you to have a notion of that these theories were made up of by people, and I would also want you to contextualize into the context of curriculum. In terms of the curriculum, these people, the conservatives, they came after the liberal. Now that they found that people are free, now that they found that people are able to share their own ideas, now that they found that people they kind of have free elections and they are able to choose who they want to govern them, the conservatives comes now and argue that no, we want to have an authoritarian government. We have to have an unquestioned government. We want to have an unquestioned curriculum. We want to have a higher education that continues to cultivate the intellectual discipline, and that also just kind of has a repository of cultural values. These people, the conservatisms, they want to guide people in a certain way that they want without being questioned. So briefly, this is a difference between these two theories. Please go through, and they also do not really accept the change. When they accept the change, they accept it as a very slow place because they don't want to be questioned over anything, either it's resources, either it's the way things are done. Remember, we think about curriculum practices. They want curriculum that is not questioned, that does not really which is not fair. So briefly, that's the difference between the conservatism and the liberalism. So we kind of need to move, and then there are two other, after now this liberalism, there's another two theories that came that is called the humanistic education theories. Within the humanistic education theories, there are kind of other humanistic theories, which are the classical humanist and the romantic humanist. The classical humanist implies the existence of an ideal human perfection that should serve as a universal and objective model for regulating the education for all of human beings. The classical humanistic is more likely the same as the liberal humanist. The liberal theorist. The classical humanists believe in the value of a person as a human being, a universal and objective model for regulating the education for all the human beings. They believe that there should be a human being, the curriculum should be a universal and object for regulating the education of all human beings. It should accommodate all other people's needs. But the romantic humanists believe that they believe in an authoritarian education and the pursuit of social status for the ills of the society. You see the difference when you speak about this liberal theory and the conservatism theory. The liberal theory, it's more like the classical humanist, while the romantic humanist education is also kind of advocating the same norm or the same notion like the conservatism. Because in a romantic humanist education, they also believe that they kind of believe in a social status that whereby they believe in the survival of the fittest, where like they believe in the social status of the ills of the society. Like, no, everybody must just fight on their own battle without corroborating the person as one. They are also kind of advocating for an authoritarian education that imposed on the people without questions. I would kind of want to move, and then apart from the romantic or naturalistic approach, we also have the existentialist human education. The existentialist human education also rejects the classical notion of human being as rational beings. You know, when we mean rational beings, we mean these are very important persons in the community. These are despite the person's status, whether they are a plumber, whether they are a teacher, whether they are unemployed, whether they are elders in the community, all people are important. That is what the classical humanists speak about. They believe that all human beings are rational beings. All people are important, as well as but the existentialist humanist education, they kind of that they kind of extend their own definition to the point that though humans are important, the alternative advance of most existentialists is that since the essence of man is freedom, in that matter of values, humans can appeal to no external authority in the matter of values. Humans can appeal to no external authority, either natural or supernatural, and are therefore designed to choose, define, and create themselves as true. The existentialistic humanistic education, it's more or less the same it's more or less the same to the classical. However, they have also moved to the next level that a person can survive in his own environment without really external authority. They believe that a person can exist even if they are not under certain authority. The person can do their own things. They can survive in a natural or supernatural way. So, and the people are designed to define and create themselves as true without any other identities or without any other authorities. Man is nothing else but what he make of himself. Like, a man does not need any other external forces for them to survive. By external forces, maybe we mean power, somebody to govern them. They are human beings and they are important and they can do whatever they want to do for their own life. Now, remember, after now the existence, there is what we call the radical humanist. The radical humanists also consider educational issues to be independent of the larger cultural, social, and economic context involved either serious ignorance or cynical deception. Poverty, crime, homelessness, drug addiction, wars, ecological crisis, and other issues. Some of our most pressing problems are facts of life that directly affect the physical, emotional, intellectual, and moral development of a great majority of our learners globally. Hence, radical educators argue that pedagogy should become more political and the political more pedagogical. So what we mean, the radical is that, when you speak about radical ideas, it's a person who is able to stand up for themselves. They also believe that in the radical humanistic education, they believe that the type of curriculum that is given to the people, it should be able to address some of these issues. Poverty, crime, homeless. The person might just not be educated for the sake of getting education, but this person should be able to advocate and really be radical. Be radical is like they should be radical ideas in terms of able to change, the status quo of the status quo of how the status quo of a certain condition that they're finding themselves. So please go through these theories and kind of try to get a better understanding on how it should be. But briefly, that's it. We are looking at the curriculum practice of the conservatism, liberalism. How are they practicing their curriculum? I think this is more like a revision. We are moving toward Unit 3. In Unit 3, you please look at the aspect of the different types of the teacher-centered and the learner-centered. So what does the teacher does in the learner-centered and what does the learner does not do? I think this is more like, I've kind of mentioned, this is more like in a learner-centered and teacher-centered. In a teacher-centered education, the teacher is the boss. He comes to the class, he teach, no question, he fills the learners with empty vessels. While in the learner-centered, learners are viewed as also important aspect in the education or into the curriculum. They are they produce knowledge, they are very knowledgeable as also. They are allowed to share their experiences in their own life, and they are not just empty vessels to be filled by the teachers, but they are also kind of involved into the whole teaching process. So in the whole learning process. So briefly, this is a difference. I don't want to kind of waste time. I think it's very clear. Please go through, in the teacher center, the teacher accepts this responsibility. In a teacher centered paradigm, the teacher only have a responsibility of teaching, but in a learner centered, they kind of take full responsibility with both learners of his own in the learner-centered education paradigm. So look at the 9 components of curriculum frameworks. Remember, when a curriculum is being developed, there's a certain framework. A certain framework is like a foundation. It's like a foundation on how it is based. Look at the Namibian curriculum, for instance. The educational policy statement. So you have to introduce, okay, fine, we are going to do this curriculum. There must be educational policy statement. Why is educational policy statement? Why in terms of the Namibian educational policy statement, I think you remember there's what we call toward education for all. Into a curriculum framework, there must be the curriculum component should be made up of certain curriculum frameworks, a foundation. It's based on what? The Namibian educational policy statement for Namibia is toward education for all. So it differs now. Look at those statements of broad learning structure. How is the structure of education, the curriculum content, the learning areas, standard of resources, required implementation, teaching methodologies. Remember, we are speaking about the component of a curriculum framework. The curriculum framework is a foundation that articulates or defines how curriculum is going to be implemented. It's based on which statement? It's based on what is the aim, broad learning. It's how is the structure of education going to be? How is the structure of the curriculum content in terms of the learning areas, the subjects? Now the structure of the curriculum content of Namibia that is recently revised is going also to be based on entrepreneurship and vocational training. These are some of the structures that you're speaking about. How are the teaching methodologies? How are the teachers going to learn? These are how are the teachers going to be assessed? Are the learners going to be assessed? And the principles of the curriculum designs. So this is the component of the curriculum framework are not the component of kind of, they are not the element of the, they are kind of the elements that explain the foundation of the curriculum to specify on which foundation is the curriculum based. So there are also the principle of the curriculum. The curriculum will be based on what now? The principles, if you say that she's a woman of principles, the principles are like these are like these are like the values that are guiding the curriculum. It's based on progression, it's based on depth, it's based on personalization and choices, it's based on relevance. Relevance, we mean it's based on coherence. Relevance, we mean it should be relevant to the economy of the country, for instance. And then we are still in Unit 3, Citizens Education, and what does it entail, and why is it important that learners are taught about it? What is citizens education? Citizens education is about teaching the learners on issues of rights and responsibilities. When I mean rights and responsibilities, I mean it's just not about you have rights, but you are also having certain obligations or responsibilities to do in your life. Where your rights begins, your responsibility also begins. Like it's when you speak about a citizen's education, it's a type of education that also kind of sensitize learners to be responsible, to be productive in their own community. And then we come to Unit 5, the context of productive citizens and how positive characteristics are still instilled. I think go through that. The difference and similarities between the process model and the curriculum theory and practices model. The process model and the difference and the similarity. When you speak about the difference and the similarity, colleagues, when you say what are the differences between the process model and the curriculum model, then you should be able to give the differences and the similarities. It's just not about explaining what it is. So the product, it's more on appeals to the workshop for a model. The process looks at the world experimentation. The idea is that an educational science in which classroom is a laboratory and each teacher is a member of the scientific community. Due to the time, I'm not going to go through all these explanations, but please look at all these issues. We are still in Unit 3. We are moving towards Unit 4. Unit 4, there are issues of progressivism and perennialism. These theories are more also the same as the conservative, though they are slightly different, they are also kind of the same. So please, due to the time of the presentation, I'm also not able to go through, but please also look at them and look at it. The principles of behaviorism and reconstructivism. Unit 4, the aims of education, physical, social, please go through them again. And the possible practical involvement activities of parents. When you speak about the possible practical involvement activities of parents, please provide practical examples. What are these parents supposed to do? You can just not say parents should be involved in education. Tell me, like what is that they should do? Be practical enough. The description of a full service school. A full service school is a type of, it's not very common in Namibia, but it's also very common. But a full service school is, it's a type of school that allows, a full service school is not a very common terminology that is used in Namibia, but it's a practice that we are using. It allows everyone to learn and participate fully, the learners, the parents, and the teacher. It's kind of a collaborating effort between the three partners into the education sector. So it works in collaboration, assistance, and support other schools. It's inclusive. Remember when you spoke about inclusive education, it also accommodates the needs of all learners. It also can prepare and explore challenges everyday school life through capacity building among educators. Instead of looking challenges in the school as issues, they kind of collaborate and work together as a team to kind of address it. It's a full service school that offers all the services that are required by the learner, by the parent, and by the teacher. The 6 major types of Epstein framework parental involvement. So now Epstein is one of theorists who also believe in some parental involvement. So look at them as well: the parenting, the communication, the volunteerism, learning at home, decision making and collaborating. I would also want you to look at certain issues apart from the issues that we have gone through in the module. Please, I would want you to tell you that this presentation is not just about issues that we'll cover in the exams. Please pay attention to all other units, or to all the units, or to all other issues that are not mentioned here. It's very important. But with that, I would just want to let you know that the issue of curriculum, theory, and practice, it kind of enlightens you on issues on what curriculum is, the theories, and the practices. How are different theories viewing curriculum, and how should curriculum be implemented? By practices, we mean implementation. But please, I would also want you to mention that the above mentioned theme should not limit you to study all other issues that are in the study guide. Please pay attention to all other topics in the study guide, and do not always memorize, but always try also to understand issues. Pay attention to the allocation of marks. Colleagues, I'm someone who loves practical examples. If you do not give me practical examples, if you just write and you copy, you are not telling to me that you understand. So it's very important that when you write, provide practical examples. Be brief and straight to the point. If it's because of time, I was going to share you with the verbs. Pay attention to the verbs. If it's 30 minutes, if they say discuss, do not mention. Discuss, it's about give a brief description. If there's 10 marks, I'm looking at 10 marks. At least if they say critically discuss the theory of humanistic, the theory of classical. What are the theories? What do they believe? They believe in A, they believe in B and C and D. Have practical examples and mention issues. So please write, and also pay attention to the marks. If it's 10 marks, I am expecting you to have 10 points. Unless you have maybe 7 points and then you have 3 examples. Then the other 3 can be for examples. Answer your questions clearly and number your questions clearly. And provide practical examples. And also answer all questions. Arrive on time to avoid confusions. With the issue of making assignments, please start writing your assignment before time. Do not wait up until the last minute. And it's also very important that you are able to pay attention also even to your writing. Some people are very, the doctor's handwritings, it's very bad. Please study very well. Don't panic. Just go through, have group works, and I'm available. I'm available after hours from 18 to 100 to 20 hours, but it's not really strict to say these are my only contact hours. You can as well also, maybe send me a text to say, no, miss, I want to speak to you. This is my number, and give special attention to the content of this contact class. Start preparation for your exams and your assignments earlier. Get acquainted with the work. Read a lot. And enjoy your studies and make most of it. So all the best. I wish you all the best. Good luck.